Hello, everybody, and welcome in on this Tuesday morning. Brooks Baptiste here, checking in from the First Alert Desk. Hopefully, your day is off to a great start. As always, we're here to catch you up on the stories that you might have missed in the news cycle. Some of us had a long weekend. Whoop, whoop, speaking about myself, but it's back to work now. It is back to the grind. So let's get you caught up on what's happening in and around Atlanta. We want to start with a story that would impact all Georgia public schools. Having the Ten Commandments on display in schools. It may seem like something that for some people, they're totally okay with it, but then there are other people who may not be as religious or may not have the Christian background, and they say, I don't know if this is what I'm okay with. But there is a bill that is being sponsored right now, and if passed, that is what we could see in all classrooms here in Georgia. Atlanta News First Doug Reardon has more on the measures and more on the lawmakers that are sponsoring the bill.
Our forefathers founded this country on Christian principles.
State Representative Emery Donahue sponsors House Bill 313. It would require Georgia public elementary and secondary schools to display the Ten Commandments in multiple locations.
We just suggested to put them at the entrance of the office of the school, the library, and the lunchroom or gymnasium.
Laws like this have been tested before in court, allowing for the display of the Ten Commandments on state and local government property, but schools are a different question. A similar law in Louisiana is being litigated right now and could arrive at the Supreme Court later this year.
And there's going to be a lawsuit for everything we do. Down here, if we pass one bill, there's 20 people mad, there'll be 20 lawsuits.
Donahue isn't worried about First Amendment or separation of church and state issues. He says the church has every right to participate in government, just not the other way around.
People make up a church, so they have the right to meddle in government. We just need help. Our school systems are falling apart with young people, bringing guns to schools, shootings.
It has absolutely nothing to do with education.
State Senator Jason Estevez is a former middle school social studies teacher and school board member. He doesn't see a need to fight over this when there's already so much education policy to tackle.
As a Catholic, I'm someone who believes in the Ten Commandments and know them, but it's not something that I want our school districts to be focused on. I want our school districts to be focused on educating our children.
Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.
Surrounding that story right now because, again, it's the South. We know how big of a role that religion has played here in the South and given just conservative views anyway, but also still transformation now. And you've got lawmakers on both sides of the aisle that are saying their respective opinions regarding this. So we'll be watching that closely to see if that is a new bill that pushes through and that becomes law and what that will do for your kids if you still have them in Georgia public schools. Another story that we're watching this morning is something that may or may not shock you. And the reason I'm going to say may or may not shock you is because there are a lot of people here in our state who would argue that they wish this was a state where sports betting was legalized, but we understand that that is still illegal right now, at least right now. And I'm phrasing it that way for a reason because a lot of people who have talked about the big game on Sunday, and the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Sports betting is back in the spotlight here, and more people are saying that they had wished they had a chance to bet on the game. We're talking about $1 billion on that Super Bowl game, but none of that was here in the Peach State. There's a recent poll from the University of Georgia that shows a majority of those surveyed want sports betting legalized here in our state. Despite all that support, legislation has come up short. At least one bill has already been introduced in the Senate, and it would legalize sports betting and casino gambling. No word yet on when we could see a vote. So when we learn more about that and whether you'll have a chance to put in on a game or anything like that, of course, we'll be sure to bring you the latest as that becomes available to us. So growing up, we always heard of the Gulf of Mexico. Well, now Gulf of America is actually appearing on Google Maps. And this is something that, not only sparked a conversation, but has people questioning what are you supposed to call it at this point. All right, so let's break this down for you. The Gulf of America now appears on Google Maps. Google says its policy is to change names whenever it has been updated by official government sources. You may remember President Donald Trump changed the name through an executive order just last month, and Google Maps is now reflecting that change. So, users in Mexico will still see the name Gulf of Mexico, but everywhere else, users will be able to see both names. So if you, again, look right now, you'll be able to see Gulf of America and Gulf of Mexico. But those who live in Mexico will still see Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, kind of confusing, but not really. Just understand if you live in Mexico, you are going to see Gulf of Mexico. Anywhere else, you will see both Gulf of America and Gulf of Mexico. Well, when's the last time you've been to the grocery store? Have you noticed that several stores have started to limit how many eggs and cartons and dozens of eggs that you can buy? And part of the reason is because there's a shortage right now. There's a company spokesperson that says they believe putting limits on these stores for how many you can buy are going to prevent their shelves from going bare. And this is a spokesperson specifically from Trader Joe's. The avian flu resulted in the deaths, get this, of more than 40 million egg-laying birds in 2024. That lack of eggs has caused them to be more expensive, and that has led some people to try to purchase large amounts per visit. Now, if you've been on social media recently, you've likely seen the videos that have gone viral from people at Sam's and people at Costco that have literally purchased so many cartons of eggs. I think, I'm a Sam's member, not a Costco member, but I believe at Sam's they come in, 2 dozen, or you can get them by 18 or 24. Usually you have to get more than 12. But I have seen people, not in person, but just through videos, I have seen so many people packing up their entire buggy, and no, they're not restaurant owners. They're just getting them while they can. So now a lot of stores are, again, putting limits on that just to avoid there from being a situation where people can't buy eggs when they need them. So I shouldn't tell you because it's not my business, but if you can, just get what you need. Not enough for the entire neighborhood, especially when you're not sharing with the entire neighborhood. Well, this final story is something that we have to really shine the spotlight. It is Black History Month, the 11th day of Black History Month, and we have now been showcasing and highlighting so much of the great history that exists here in Georgia. Yes, we go beyond Atlanta and really tell you about what's happening in Georgia because there is so much rich history and there are so many incredible stories that deserve to be shared. I've had the opportunity to work on a few of them, and I'm looking forward to sharing those with you guys. But today we're focusing on one about home ownership. And what's interesting is if you own a home, you may understand that is a part of the American dream. But it's been a challenge for people who look like me to own a home. And that's something that many who do look like me may not ever get to achieve. Well, this Black History Month, Atlanta News First anchor Tracy Hutchins is explaining the physical barrier, literally a physical barrier that was put in place to keep blacks out and the impact that that had right here in the city of Atlanta.
Cascade Heights, home to black prominence and power in Atlanta, where notable politicians, sports figures, and celebrities have settled in. That's only recent history. In the early 1960s, the neighborhood was on the brink of a major transition. A doctor named Clinton Warner bought a home here. The problem? Dr. Warner was black, and this area of Cascade Heights was all white. It wasn't long before Atlanta Mayor Ivan Allen Jr. decided he needed to do something to prevent more blacks from moving in. He called for a permanent barricade here along Peyton Road made of steel and wood. It became known as the Peyton Wall, a symbol of segregation.
So the whole effort was to push blacks to the west side, but it was a travesty. I mean, who builds a barricade? This is a year after the Berlin Wall was built, and it was often referred to as Atlanta's Berlin Wall.
Dr. Ron Bayer, retired Georgia Tech professor, told me the Peyton Wall was Atlanta's most blatant attempt to block black migration. He's written about Atlanta's segregated history in his book, Race and the Shaping of 20th Century Atlanta. Multiple protests and negative national attention were too much for the city, and when a judge ruled the barrier unconstitutional, the Peyton Wall came down after 72 days. But its impact remains.
Generally, Atlanta is still a pretty segregated city, and this is a legacy of what happened before.
I wanted to do more.
It is full circle for Archie Emerson, the local board president of the Empire Board of Realtors, the same group of black real estate brokers who fought to help black homeowners in this neighborhood in the 60s. Because that's what happened here.
Yes.
Is a doctor wanted more for his family.
Yes. He wanted home ownership. In order for us to elevate to the next level, we must change our mindset and understand that we have the right for home ownership.
Even in 2025, there are barriers for blacks, including historical prejudice, economic disparities, and denied mortgages. The most recent data from the Atlanta Regional Commission found black home ownership in Fulton County was 25% lower than white home ownership, though blacks make up a larger percentage of the population.
So why wouldn't we continue to fight now? Unfortunately, like I said, we're still fighting. So that we can continue to have growth in home ownership, it starts right here on Payton Road.
Tracy Hutchins, Atlanta News First.
And that is why we are so committed to sharing those stories, and that is why Black history is so important. You wouldn't know that. There are people that travel that road every day and may have never known that there was a physical barrier there. There's no other way to put it. That was just the time that it was back then. So, again, it's always great to be able to share those stories. So a very nice job to Tracy Hutchins for sharing that, because that is one that a lot of people just may not be exposed to and may not know. Well, we want to give you a live look outside because it is a First Alert weather day. And today, First Alert meteorologist Ella Dorsey and Rodney Harris and even Courtney Jacobazzi have been staying on top of your forecast really this morning, because we had a little bit of rain that moved into the area this morning. But tonight is what they're really concerned about. And maybe I shouldn't even say concerned. Maybe I just say tonight is what they're keeping their eye on. And that's because we're about to get some serious rain, and even the potential of flooding is out there. So there's that concern. Not everybody's going to see that, but at 11:30 during Weather Where You Are, you'll be able to hear from our team regarding the conditions that'll be headed our way later on today. But for now, if you have to get out the door, please make sure you take the umbrella, especially if you're going to be out and about during dinner time, because you will likely need it. Thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the First Alert Desk. I'm Brooks Baptiste, and I'll be sure to keep you guys posted and updated as more comes into the newsroom. But remember, you can always catch up on the latest stories by heading to AtlantaNewsFirst.com and the free Atlanta News First app. Make it a great one.